This lesson of them all probably has the longest title, so bear with that. Hopefully this makes sense. It's solving for a variable in terms of another variable. It also could be said solving for a variable as a function of another variable. Maybe you could write that above it. Solving for a variable as a function of another variable. That could work just as well as in terms of as a function of another variable. Both languages is used. So let's get to work on an example, or actually two examples. Okay, first let's do one like this. It'd be kind of a basic algebra looking problem. This is a pretty common form. This is not the mx plus b form, but this is the bx or ax plus by equals c form. We often end up graphing in this form, and I usually, when I do graph in this form, which I'll show you this in another lesson, I like to graph by the intercepts, but that's for another discussion. So if I wanted to solve this, I probably should have written the instruction on here, but let's say the instruction said this: solve for y in terms of x. I guess I'll write that. Solve for y in terms of x, or it could have said solve for y as a function of x. Okay, so what I want to do is notice the key word, the phrase here said solve for y. So let's do that. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 4x on both sides. I want to get y's all by itself. It's a little disappointing to get here and say, wait a second, 24 minus 4x? What is 24 minus 4x? Is it 20? Is it 6x or what? No. You can't combine them. They're not like terms. And typically we put the x first. So I'm going to put negative 4x plus 24. Those cannot be combined. Finally, divide by 6. And you might just think, you know, 24 would be like to divide by 6, but 4 wouldn't be very nice. But you don't really have the choice. You have to divide everyone by 6. So this becomes just y. This reduces to negative 2/3. And this becomes 4. So that would be your answer. That is y in terms of x. So what does the in terms of x means? It means, this part, it means it's okay to have an x in your answer. You're not going to just get y is 6 or y is 4 or y is negative 5. You're going to have some weird answer. It's going to be an equation still. But you solve for y in terms of x. So now if someone says, hey, guess what? X is 30. And then, you know, what's y? You could just quickly plug it in. And what did you get? I think negative 16. You have y in terms of x. You have an equation where someone gives you an x, you can get y right away. That's, you know, whether or not you think that's important, that's what we're doing when we solve for y in terms of x. Let's do another example that's maybe a little more practical. Okay, we're going to talk about Fahrenheit and Celsius, which is one of our favorite things to convert, I'm sure. Here is the equation. Not that you have to know this, but this is the equation that converts from Celsius to Fahrenheit. So say you're in Europe, or really anywhere else in the world, since everybody else uses Celsius, and they say, oh, it's so hot, it's 40 degrees out. And you say, what? That sounds cold. So you'd want to break this equation out. In a similar way, if someone from Europe was visiting us, they might want to know how to convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius. So let's try to do that. So the instruction here might say write an equation for Celsius in terms of Fahrenheit. I'm not going to write that out, but write an equation for Celsius in terms of Fahrenheit. Or more algebraically, you could say solve for C in terms of F. I'll write that. Solve for C in terms of F. Or again, I could have said as a function of F. So I want to move everybody away from C. What should I do first? The 9/5 or the 32? The 32. Hopefully that's what you said. So we have F minus 32 equals 9/5. Let's try that again. 9/5 C. You know, the whole which one do you do first? It's similar to a problem like this. What do you do first? Divide by 2 or subtract 1? Yeah, you subtract 1. It's the same thing here. You do the, it's really like the backwards of order of operations. You do the subtraction and then you do the division. So now you can divide both sides by 9/5. Do I want to do that? Sure. My hesitation is I don't really like dividing by fractions. You might recall that to divide by a fraction, let's just call it x over y, is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal of that fraction. So let's do that. Either way, that's gone. But let's make this times 5/9. I'm going to make a mistake. What did I do wrong there? Well, I'm disrespecting that. That's not 5, sorry. I'm disrespecting the 32. It wants to be multiplied by 5/9, but you're only multiplying f, so you need parentheses. And that way you're showing that the 5/9 is multiplied by the entire thing that was up top here. Okay, so that's our answer. Let's kind of write it. I like to put the C on the left. You don't have to, but you can. And this is now our equation that relates Celsius. It's Celsius in terms of Fahrenheit. Box it, and we are done. Hope that helped.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.